Do you use browser extensions? If you do, you should know about some threat actors and how they are targeting certain extensions for the Chrome browser. Let's take a look at what's been happening and what you should do in order to keep your computing environment safe. If you're new here, my name's Kathy Zant. If you've been around for a while, Happy New Year. It's 2025, and I think this year is going to be amazing. I just started a podcast. I'll have a link down below. It's called Zantastic, and there I'm talking more about marketing and the changes that are happening in the digital landscape. If you have any kind of audience whatsoever and you're looking to grow that audience and solidify relationships with the people that you serve, that might be a good podcast for you to follow. I will have conversations with people in the future. But right now, if you just can't get enough of me, Zantastic is there for you. But let's get started and take a look at this article on Bleeping Computer. There's a link down below if you want to go read it yourself, but let's take a look at what they are reporting. New details reveal how hackers have hijacked 35 Chrome extensions. If you are using Google Chrome, as I am on this particular window, there are various extensions that you can add to increase the functionality of your computing environment. For example, I have one that is an ad blocker. I have an AI tool that allows me to summarize what I might be watching as a YouTube video or an article, and I have a little window resizer. There's tons of little handy extensions that you can install into your Google Chrome environment to make your life easier. Now, just like WordPress and plugins, Google Chrome extensions extend the functionality of whatever you're doing. But just like WordPress plugins, vulnerabilities and security are incredibly important. And here we see that hackers are hijacking Chrome extensions in a supply chain attack. New details have emerged about a phishing campaign that targeted Chrome browser extension developers, leading to the compromise of at least 35 extensions to inject data stealing code, including those from cybersecurity firm Cyberhaven. So initial reports focused on their security-focused extension, and subsequent investigations revealed that the same code had been injected into at least 35 extensions collectively used by 2.6 million people. Now, reports were on LinkedIn and Google groups from targeted developers. This latest campaign started around December 5th. However, earlier command and control subdomains found by Bleeping Computer existed back as far as March of 2024. There was a post in Google Chromium extensions group alerting people to a sophisticated phishing email, more sophisticated than usual, that they received that stated that a Chrome extension policy violation had happened. The link in the email looks like the web store, but it goes to a phishing website that tries to take control of Chrome extensions and likely update it with malware. So this was a very deceptive attack. If you actually were one of those developers that clicked on that link in that phishing email, it sent someone to one of these domains: supportchromestore.com, forextensions.com, chromeforextension.com. These are not Google domains. And then that phishing email looked like it was coming from Google. It was designed in a way that it looked very official, and it claimed that the extension was in violation of Chrome Web Store policies and that it was going to be removed. It said specifically that they didn't allow extensions with misleading, poorly formatted, non-descriptive, irrelevant, excessive, or inappropriate metadata. The extension developer is led to believe their software's description contained misleading information. So they have a screen cap here of what that looked like. If the developer clicked on the Go to Policy button in an effort to understand what they might have violated, they were taken to a login page for a malicious OAuth application. So actual malicious sites were using Google's OAuth authorization in order to authenticate that user, but they were authenticating to a malicious domain. So the problem here is that it appears like the same type of authorization flow that Google uses to securely grant permissions to third-party apps to access specific Google account resources. I'm sure you see this everywhere online. You're logging in somewhere and it asks you, would you like to log in using Google? And it takes you to this similar type of login form where you enter in your Google credentials, and then you authenticate with whatever site that you're logging into. On that malicious site, the attacker hosted a malicious application named Privacy Policy Extension that asked the victim to grant permission to manage the Chrome Web Store extension through their account. It said, when you allow this access, Privacy Policy Extension will be able to see, edit, update, or publish your Chrome Web Store extensions, themes, apps, and licenses that you have access to. So this looks also very familiar as well. If you install, for example, vidIQ is an extension you can install in Chrome, and it helps you to manage and understand the traffic coming to your YouTube channel, but you have to authorize vidIQ to have that data. So this is very familiar to a lot of people with this permissions approval prompt. It didn't matter if someone was using 2FA, multi-factor authentication, because the direct approval in OAuth does not require two-factor authentication. The process assumes that you fully understand the scope of the permissions that you're granting. So the employee at Cyberhaven who was tricked into clicking on this, they were just following the standard flow, and they inadvertently authorized a malicious third-party application to their Chrome extension. They had Google Advanced Protection enabled. They had multi-factor authentication covering the account. They didn't receive an MFA prompt. Their credentials were not compromised, but access to that Chrome extension was. So once the threat actors gained access to the extension developer account, they modified the extension to include two malicious files, worker.js and content.js JavaScript files, which contained code to steal data from Facebook accounts. Gets more and more interesting, doesn't it? This hijacked extension was then published as a new version on the Chrome Web Store. While Extension Total is tracking 35 extensions impacted by this phishing campaign, the IOCs, or the indications of compromise from the attack, indicate that a far greater number of extensions were targeted. VirusTotal says that the threat actors pre-registered domains for targeted extensions even if they didn't fall for the attack. So let's say your extension was Kathy's extension. They might have registered Kathy's extensions so that they could prepare for the small window before that developer realized that they have been compromised. They were testing this as far back as March 2024. So they've got some example subdomains that were used in this phishing campaign. Analysis of the compromised machines show that attackers were after Facebook accounts of these poisoned extensions. The data stealing code was attempting to grab the user's Facebook ID, access token, account information, ad account information, and their business accounts. So that shows some of the malicious code that was trying to grab all of that. It was adding also a mouse click event listener specifically for the victim's interactions on Facebook, looking for QR images related to the platform's two-factor authentication or CAPTCHAs mechanisms. They were aiming to bypass 2FA protections on Facebook accounts, allowing threat actors to hijack. The stolen information would be packaged together with Facebook cookies, the user agent string, Facebook ID, and the mouse click events, and exfiltrated to the attacker's command and control servers. So threat actors have been targeting Facebook business accounts, various attack pathways to make direct payments from victims' credit to their account, run disinformation or phishing campaigns on Facebook, or to just monetize the access by selling it to others. So who's the real victim here? Well, the 2.6 million people who were compromised with this supply chain attack affecting Chrome extensions are the real victims. If you manage a business account, a business Facebook account, this is something of which you should take note. If you're using any Chrome extensions on the Chrome browser where you are accessing Facebook, be aware that this is a supply chain attack that is attacking your access to those Facebook business pages. It's incredibly important that you be very judicious about the Chrome extensions that you have installed. If you don't need a Chrome extension on a regular basis, like it's not helping you do your job regularly, then perhaps don't use it. Install it when you need it to do something specific, and then deactivate and delete it when you are not using it. Just like WordPress plugins. If you have a plugin and you aren't using it on a regular basis, deactivate and delete it. You can always reinstall it later if you need it again, but it's better to have minimal code in your computing environment, whether it's a WordPress site, whether it's your Chrome browser, or even Firefox browser or others. Now, there's one thing that I wanted to note that you can see when you go back to that article. There was a comment on January 2nd, basically criticizing Google, saying that Google remains extremely complacent and negligent in how it's dealing with users reporting nefarious extensions. So even if you noticed that perhaps something was wrong with an extension, it's taking Google a long time to deal with these reports. These extensions stay in the Google Chrome store longer than they should, and so it's really up to you to be aware of the extensions that you have installed in your browser. Like I said, I have a few that I have installed, but let's take a look and see what other things I have installed. It's the start of a new year. It's a good time to do security auditing, not just on WordPress, but on your browsing environment as well. So let's take a look at how you can remove extensions that you are no longer using and why you should look at this probably like once a month or so and make sure that nothing has been installed inadvertently without your knowledge. Here's that comment that I just mentioned to you. But let's take a look at my Google Chrome. I haven't even looked at it. So let's get surprised together and take a look. So if you click on the three dots up here, you can go over to extensions and sorry, it's off the screen, but you get two options: manage extensions and visit Chrome store. We're going to click on manage extensions and it opens up this view and you can see all of the extensions that are installed. So I have AdBlock. I'm not even using this. I am not even using this. So I'm going to remove this one. Google Docs Offline, I do use that, but not very often. I use it when I'm traveling to get my Google Docs in a place where I can work with them when I'm offline. I'm going to remove it for now. I'll install it later when I need it. Keywords Everywhere I do use fairly regularly. Merlin I am using regularly. Now here's something I tried a while ago, Microsoft Bing Search with Rewards. I tried it a while ago. You can see it is deactivated over here, but I am not using it, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that extension. And of course, it wants to ask me if I've done it by mistake. No, I know what I'm doing here. Super Simple Highlighter I use when I'm doing videos like this to highlight things that I think are important. vidIQ I used, and the window resizer. Boy, I tell you what, I use that fairly often. So these are all things that I'm using, but you can see here, I don't have a ton of extension. None of these extensions are something I don't recognize, so I'm not concerned. I don't think I have any security issues. If you are not using something on a regular basis, just remove it. You can always install it later. And if you wanted to install extensions, you do basically the same thing. You go to extensions over here, and then you just click visit Chrome Web Store. And just like with plugins and everything else, you want to read the reviews, see if there are any things that are concerning that you might want to check on. Another thing that's really good to do about this time of year, if I can get to it, it's off the screen, but if you go all the way down to the bottom, there is something called settings, and you can go over to privacy and security, go to safety check, and just take a look. Make sure that Google Chrome is up to date, that you've got safe browsing on, and that if you are storing passwords in your password autofill, make sure that nothing is compromised here. I recommend using a password manager rather than using this because Chrome does have security vulnerabilities at times, and you want to make sure that your passwords are not exposed there. So that is how you update Google Chrome. If you see that little time for an update or restart to update, you might see that up in the corner. Do that before you do anything else, especially if you're doing a screen share. I'm one of those people that when I see that on a screen share, somebody's teaching something and I see relaunch to update, I'm always just OCD, I guess. I've just seen too many things in the security world. I hope that this video was helpful in understanding how attackers are targeting Chrome extension developers and how that might impact you. If you are managing a Facebook account for a business, be aware that that is a juicy target. Maybe that's something that you use on a different browser with no extensions, and making sure that everything is updated, because that is an asset that hackers are after. So it's just something to be aware of. And of course, just maintain your browsing environment, your Chrome environment if you are using it. It is an intrusion vector. It is something that attackers are after with these supply chain attacks with extensions. So it is something that we are going to have to remain vigilant about. Thanks again for watching. And once again, join me over at Zantastic if you are into digital marketing, building audiences, anything like that. I'd love to hear from you over there. Episode 2 is coming out next week. Woo! How's that for me staying consistent? I hope your 2025 is safe, prosperous, happy, and that you have a great year. Thanks for watching.